Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest. Talk about a game that we've had conversations before. So to get us started. Do you mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Hey, yeah, so I'm David. I'm the game director on Modulus. We're Happy Volcano, and we released a few games before. We're super excited about this one. It's a factory automation game, and it's shaping up to be something really cool.
So maybe kind of starting. So factory automation, uh, like a genre like stuff that we kind of seen kind of pop up. Obviously, probably Factorial is the most famous of these types of kind of thing games. What kind of drew you guys to kind of wanting to make a game genre that like it's a very intense genre, I guess is probably the best way to call it.
Yeah, there's a lot of expectations if you're building a factory game, because usually that's the type of game players spend hours in and part of their lives committed to it. And they have like pretty big opinions on how things supposed to be happening, or what the norms are in these kinds of games, because if you spend so long playing these, you kind of develop like almost a bond with it, and you have these norms that you would like to see in the next game, but something new, right? So, but the reason why we started making factory game is basically because a lot of us in the studio are fans of factory games. That's like actually the easy answer, I guess. We just love factory games, and we are trying to make something that honors that love, that shows the passion for factory automation games. But also, like, we're Happy Volcano, we always tend to make a concept unique, or we want to put a unique spin on in all our games. And I think Modulus has that. It has something to set it apart in the genre.
No, that makes sense. So kind of when you were thinking of or the team's kind of thinking of kind of the parts of like the factory almost or this kind of building thing like to kind of abstract versus kind of to like more kind of be more literal kind of where was this line to you kind of like this was a game versus this should be like a real life simulation versus like a game rule type simulation like sure it's simulating but like it's more simulation based on some more abstract rules we made to make it be fun versus what is.
Yeah, so the idea originally came from making a factory game where essentially the very first idea I had in mind was something that was more close to like woodworking and machines that cut pieces from other pieces and make some details on something. And then in the end, it's all assembled into a piece of furniture. And I thought, like, that's a pretty cool idea to see. That I just have a passion for woodworking as well, and I just thought of, why doesn't this work in a factory game? Maybe we can make this work in a factory game. And of course, it was pretty concrete then, like making wooden planks and stuff. We were even thinking about like how to put nails in things. But then as the concept, or we started prototyping, the concept started becoming a bit more abstract, because it needs to be flexible as well. So I'm pretty proud to say that at this point, well, at that point as well, we come up with a mechanic that doesn't actually have recipes. So usually in a factory game, you combine two things to get a new thing, or you have a fixed recipe. But in our game, we just tell you what this building needs in terms of like measurements, like voxel blocks of X by X by X, and in this color and that color. And just the way you get there, it doesn't matter. So there are millions of ways to create a specific shape. And I think that's something that I haven't seen yet in other factory games, where your approach is always, it does matter. There's more efficient approaches, there's very elaborate approaches, there's overproduction, there's all sorts of things. But in the end, it just, if you make what the building needs, it doesn't matter how you get there. So you can literally cut a cube anywhere you'd like. The amount of voxel combinations is unlimited or almost unlimited. And how you get there is completely up to you. So it's a lot of experimentation and like seeing. It's a bit like the same effect as like a woodworker would have when they check, okay, I need to build this piece of furniture. What do I need? I can cut this board first in the length and then in the width, or I could just cut it in the width and then cut both of them in the length. But that, yeah. So there are better ways of doing things, but just this flexibility and this amount of freedom you have in creating things the games asks you to create is something we're really proud of.
Like the idea that you can build the building blocks in the game is a wild statement. Have you guys had problems of like, as you guys were talking, right? There's a demo on Steam. You guys probably playtest it both internally, externally. What have that been kind of like teaching players and kind of making sure they both kind of understand their freedom, but like, let's be honest, especially in the beginning, kind of restricting them or guiding them enough to at least understand the rules? Like, what has that experience kind of been like, seeing that and adjusting and make sure players understand how to actually use these systems?
Yeah, so that's been the biggest or one of the biggest challenges of the game because it can get complicated. At the start, the game was too complicated, so we did a lot of playtests, and the modules we were requesting were more detailed and were almost parts of houses and stuff like that, so more figurative, less abstract. But that meant you had to like do all the math in your head and create a big puzzle to finally get one piece. Um, but yeah, like in terms of onboarding players, it's been a pretty long road so far, but we've done the work. We've been there, we've done play tests, and we listened to people. We identified blockers, and we tried to put people at the start of the game on a little bit of a rail, but not too long, because we had that didn't work either, because then you're just clicking buttons and you don't know what you're doing. You actually have you think a little bit, and then have you think a little bit more, and then even more, and then before you know it, you're playing the game. So that was a pretty long process. I think we had close to 10 different iterations of the tutorial, and tooltips and pop-ups to help you around, some videos to support you. But I think right now we have a tutorial, or the first section of the game, which is almost 2 hours long, that will introduce you to the mechanics of this game very gradually and unlock more and more as you go. It's been a long process, but I think we're in a good position right now. But as always, we keep working on it and fine tuning it until it's even better. It's a work in progress. I fear it will never end, but I think that's the beauty of game design and staying close to your community, listening to them, and just making it better together.
This also seems like one of those genres of games. Like, it's kind of similar to me, almost like roguelikes have a similar thing of like, it's one of the genres that you, as long as you stay within the theme or your theme's pretty broad, like you have almost like a nearly endless supply of stuff you could add to these games. Um, I'm kind of curious, kind of in that context, did you guys have some sort of like guiding principle, or is there something more like, hey, we know we want to do a factory, now we're kind of just seeing how this is evolving and kind of like the time we have and feedback we're getting, kind of? Or is there more kind of broad, like we have a vision we're heading towards and we're just kind of seeing kind of what we have to adjust along the pathing?
Yeah, I would say it's like a combination of both, actually. We had a pretty elaborate vision at the start of it, and then you adapt that vision as you go, as you get feedback, as you encounter problems or risks, or you have something that's good enough and it does not need extra bells and whistles. So it's something you're always like shaping to become something that stays fun, right? Feedback is super important for us. But in this genre, it's tricky because before a factory game works, a lot of moving parts have to work together before you can actually understand the potential of the game. And we put a lot of effort in creating a super robust system that allows you to be creative here within confines, of course. So there's a limited size and stuff like that of the modules. So you can't create a module that is filling your screen yet. But if we have that system in place and everything's working together, then you have a solid foundation to add more content very easily. So right now, if we add an extra building or an extra recipe to the game, those core systems will just support that new thing, and it will increase the content of the game, or we can easily increase the amount of time you can spend in the game because the core system is so good. And adding something to the equation just exponentially grows the amount of fun you can have with it. But that means that base system needs to be like a clock. It needs to work super well and be stable. And yeah, from that point on, you do a lot of play tests and you figure out what players find the most fun thing about it. And that is kind of where the game will evolve towards. So there is definitely like a goal in this game and an end game that's still being worked on right now. But apart from that, there's no reason to stop when you've reached that point in the game. So there is many options to go, and I'm looking forward to hearing what our audience wants, where they want the game to go to.
Yeah, no,
So yeah, it's a bit of a combination. Yeah.
I could see a lot. That's the thing with this one too. I could see where like the feedback starts coming in like getting it's the whole like getting water from a fire hose type moment of like, yeah, no, there's feedback could be hot and heavy and there's could be so many ideas there. Do you kind of have like when you're getting like I'm assuming ample feedback of like things people want or adjust or whatever, is there some sort of like almost like priority besides like obviously like game breaking bugs or whatever, but like is there some sort of other priority of like, hey, we really want players to like when we get certain feedback like, hey, they want a new type building pack, maybe we talk about that first. Is it like you guys look at like system feedback? Is there some sort of way you're funneling this and kind of trying to get consensus or whatever kind of on what's coming through the player pipeline?
Yeah, so we actually do a lot of our time in a sprint based on what players want in the game, or things they find that are not necessarily bugs, but things that just don't work fluently, or don't give you a Zen experience, or you get you out of that flow. So we have like a very big part of sprints that we just like work on the quality of life stuff or features that you are missing if you're playing for a while, like simple examples like text notes that you can put on your factory to remind you of what you were actually doing there, icons you can place down. So there's a lot of stuff like that, and also features like handling of things, like copying things, how the whole game feels. That's really useful for playtests. Also difficulty, if we add a new building and the modules are too difficult, we can tweak that, make them a bit easier. But in terms of like massive functions, like massive features, I think we have a pretty good idea of those, and we're working towards an end product. So we can't just add massive functions because players want that. We still have like a deadline and need to get there. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good stuff coming from our community that we're taking close to heart, and is an integral part of our development process all the time.
Yeah, no, these are the type of games where, like, to me, they sound really fun conceptually until you're just trying to like wind it down the content and kind of trying to like to get the nice bow on them. I'm curious, kind of. So when you sit down and you play, right, and you just kind of go and space out, whatever. What is like your favorite? Like, if I gave you like a blank scene or whatever, kind of like, do you have kind of like a pattern you kind of go for? Like, I built a few factories and I started doing like, what kind of is your almost like Zen like kind of you when testing the game?
Well, the way I like to play the game is I like to do the math. So I know which buildings are coming. I know roughly already the layout of what needs to happen. But I like to work in perfect ratios. Like if this next building will require 60 per minute of this building, it means it can perfectly handle 4 cranes. So I need to output exactly 60 per minute for each of these building. These ratios, they're a bit more complicated than other factory games in some aspect. But the nice part of it is that it doesn't really matter. You can play the game without worrying about the ratios. It's also about the fun of building and creating a shape and seeing that shape being used to build buildings and expanding your factory, producing more things, spending stuff in the tech tree. But yeah, I love just to plan out a little bit, like make compact builds as well. I love to try to make the build as compact as possible because space is a commodity in this game. So after playing for a couple of hours, you kind of get the hang of the basics, and then you start like challenging yourself. Maybe I can build this core production line here on a 10 by 10 grid, and it's a nice square that I can easily copy and place all over the place, and then just double your production, make more buildings, and just produce more and more. And it's always in powers of 2 or 4, and then you have to increase the other part of your factory with powers of 2 or 4 or like that. I just love just figuring out exactly how many parts I'm going to produce per minute, because the next building will count on that. That's what I like about this game. But we have people in the team that don't care about it and just start building, go for the next building, just go forward. I like to set up a good base, like a massive production of
My
like
guess is
a
your
basic material.
yours probably scales
Sorry.
better. Because my guess is I play more like the second set of people you just said there, and generally with games like this, and that very much I get the problem. When you get to like the second half of the game, you go, okay, I have to rebuild this foundation, redo this stuff. Where my guess is, because you know the math and you're building correctly, you probably get to the second half of the game and you're like, and perfect, my system is still set up, and I keep adding to it. Which my guess is it's a less frustrating way to play these games at a certain point.
Well, I don't know. It's completely fine to start out like that, and at some point you'll learn along the way, and your next part of your factory will be neater. Is that a word? And the next part will be even more streamlined. And then at some point, if you're so annoyed by your abomination that you built the first hour of the game, you could just go back there and streamline it, or just completely destroy it, and you'll quickly build a new part and like kind of tidy up house as you go. You don't have to like go for a complete overhaul all the time. I think it's fine, but if you want to like get through the end game, you need some sort of organization. Of course, that's part of a logistics game.
No, that makes absolute kind of sense. Is there anything through development or kind of through this process that you thought was added in this game was a game changer? Like, is there a building or a factory component or something like that that you thought like there's a before and there's an after?
Yeah, for a long time, the factory would just produce items that would build a building, but that building was kind of like the end point of your production, and that was kind of your goal, to build a set of buildings. At some point, we used those buildings to house citizens, and those citizens would give you money to place more. But we were mixing two genres, it was getting too complicated. But then, so we scrapped that, but then we still had the problem of, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's enough for players. The gameplay loop is not, it's not, it's not a loop. It's basically doing something over and over again. So at the point where we figured out what to do, that was kind of a game changer. So those buildings you built with the modules, they can actually produce something else that you will need in the rest of your factory to make new items and to unlock new buildings, and then eventually to unlock monuments that are massive efforts. And that's kind of your end goal in the game, to build all monuments and unlock the final part of the campaign. So that was a game changer. The part that these buildings are not the end point, but they are just a means to the next step, so you can keep on going and unlocking new things and keep on going and keep on going.
No, that makes sense. So you have to get that loop kind of, and you have a reason to keep kind of looping players kind of down. As we're talking, obviously the game is gonna come out in early access relatively soon, next couple of weeks here. What kind of can players expect kind of from the early access launch, and then kind of what are you saying kind of comparatively what they can expect probably a year or so from now kind of for like the full launch looking like?
Yeah, so the early access launch has 3 building color families in it. So that means a color family is yeah, buildings that require the same colored modules. So more colors means more difficulty, and like there's difficulty in colors itself. So there's close to 20, 25 buildings in the game, 3 monuments, which are massive things. And I think in terms of gameplay hours, we were speaking about like to finish this like 25 to 50 hours or even 100 if you want to. So there's a lot of stuff you can do in this game already. There's module challenges, there's delivery targets, there's a whole tech tree with 150 nodes in it to unlock new stuff. So 25 hours is probably even not enough for me. So actually, I think it's like if you want to complete that, it's already 50 hours. And then, yeah, the game towards 1.0, we have some rough idea of what that's going to be. I think we add more colors for sure. And yeah, the end game will be fleshed out a bit more. It's kind of hard to tell what the biggest difference is. I think there probably will be some extra logistic systems in there without spoiling too much. And a massive end goal that utilizes all the colors, all the stuff you've unlocked in the game. But as we said earlier, that's kind of important for us to know. If we're in early access, what do players actually enjoy the most, and what would they want to have in the game that builds on these systems that just elevates it to a higher level. And game as well, you can keep on adding stuff to it because it connects so well with a good foundation. But we're looking for like many hours of gameplay. It's already the case right now. I see people leaving reviews on the demo with 50 hours in demo. That's crazy actually. So I think you'll have enough content if you're a factory automation enthusiast to spend many hours in.
No, that makes sense. That is, yeah, no, I feel like there is obviously a lot that can change over time with this game too. Do you kind of have a preference? I'm kind of curious as we kind of get to the tail end of this. As players kind of play these things and give feedback, are you the type of developer who does the like every day or two kind of goes in the backlog of things that people talk about? Or are you the like, okay, I'm working on a sprint, let's see feedback and get it all in like one type of dose kind of? How do you kind of feel helps almost like evolve the game better?
Well, like for me personally, it's daily. I'm on our Discord every day, listening to if we drop a new playtest. I'm just there to listen in. We also have like an extensive voting board where players can drop features or things they want in a game, and then they can vote. So the top things are usually the most wanted things. So that's really handy. But yeah, I also engage in conversations. Just like give me your save game, or what do you think of this? Or when we post something, just even the UI. Sometimes I post stuff. What do you think looks better? What do you think works better? And then those conversations are really just really shine a light from the player perspective, because we're so deep into this game that sometimes it's hard to see what's important, because you're like so in it, and players are viewing it from a bit of a distance, which is a point of view you can never underestimate. Really important. So
You know,
yeah, on a daily basis.
there is definitely a 10,000 foot lot like view that is fundamentally different than understanding a system down to a T. That I think you're very correct on.
Mhm.
But the game obviously is Modulus. You guys are coming out soon on early access. There's currently a demo available on Steam. Where else should we be sending people to kind of make sure they get to go check out all of the game and all the future work?
Yeah, definitely check out our Steam page, because there's a demo that's pretty polished there. It's getting crazy good reviews. But of course, we love more feedback. So play the demo, keep an eye on the Steam page. There's a lot of interesting posts being done there, some dev vlogs and some discussions we have there. And also drop by in our Discord. We have a Discord that's growing, and it's a very nice community. And we love to hear your voice there. So yes, those are the places you can check out.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you for taking your time to talk to me today. Best of luck as you guys are heading towards that early access launch and just continuing development on the game.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.